Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to this podcast, which is one of a series of podcasts Geely are doing on the theme of our leadership exchange in Ottawa next year, which is Ideas into Action, Inspiring Leaders to Take Collective Action. My name is Peter Molyneux, he, him, and I'm the England lead for the Global Leadership Exchange. And I'm absolutely delighted to be joined this afternoon by Moninne Griffith. And Moninne is going to be talking to us about some of her leadership challenges and what she would like to see in this space. Moninne, do you want to introduce yourself to us?
Sure, thanks, Peter. So my name is Moninne Griffith. I use she, her pronouns. I am currently the CEO of BeLonG to LGBTQ plus Youth Ireland. And I've been here as the CEO for the last 10 years. And before that, I was Director of Marriage Equality here in Ireland for 8 years, which famously uh, was the first time in the world that we introduced marriage equality by public vote. And before that, then my profession, I'm a trained solicitor. I worked as a solicitor for almost 8 years. And yeah, I live just outside Dublin with my wife and our daughter. And yeah, I really interested in the area of leadership, both kind of the styles of leadership, but also the kind of great leaders that I've mentors and coaches that have been a part of my life have been very formative for my own career and my own style of leadership as well.
Mm,
So it's always a really interesting subject to learn. I think anybody can be a leader, and
mm,
it's really about the different kinds of styles, what you can
yeah,
bring to it.
yeah. So tell us a little bit about the work you're doing at the moment.
Sure. So we work with young people aged 10 to 24. We provide direct services to them here in Dublin. So that what that looks like on any given week is youth groups where young people come together with broadly their own age cohort. And they just get to be themselves. And sometimes it's a project. It might be about theatre, making films, or can be summer projects. We just finished all our summer projects where they went on, trips to the zoo and different things like that. And it's a way of them connecting and making friends, but also learning a little bit more about um, what it might mean to be LGBT. Some of them are self-identified as LGBT. Some of them are still exploring. We don't ask young people when they come in. Very often it's their parents that bring us, or their carers that bring them to us, or they hear about us from friends or from teachers, or GPs as well. We get lots of referrals actually from GPs as well. So we support them. We support them around issues they might be having with their mental health. We work in collaboration with a number of mental health services, including Jigsaw and Pieta here in Ireland. We also work with other services, young people in care. There's quite a number of young people in care who identify as LGBT. So we work with lots of services around child protection and safeguarding. Um, and yeah, lots of different healthcare professionals and teachers and youth services. We work building capacity in schools and youth services and homeless services nationally. So we've
Mm,
co-created quality standard frameworks that sit in for those various different professions, those different sectors, so that young people can feel safe and included in those various different spaces in school, in youth clubs, and in homeless services across Ireland. And then we do a lot of campaigning and advocacy work. So we have a big campaign running at the moment called Better Out Than In, which is really aimed at young people and encouraging them to ask for help around their mental health and well-being, whatever stage it can be. They don't have to wait until they're struggling. It's about talking
mm,
to a friend or a trusted adult or a teacher, or reaching out to get mental health professional help. So that's we co-created that with young people, and that's running for the month of September. And then next month in November is all about our anti-bullying work in post-primary schools across Ireland, called Stand Up Awareness Week. And that really is about empowering young people and staff in schools across Ireland to support LGBT young people in their schools, but also to address homophobic and transphobic bullying, to be able to recognize it and address it and feel confident and capable. So we've it's a small team of 26 people here.
Mhm.
But we work very much in collaboration with lots of other organizations in the youth sector, the mental health sector, the sexual health sector. And yeah, no 2 days are the same. So
Mm.
it's a wonderful job. I'm very lucky to be here.
It sounds fantastic. I mean, that was a very comprehensive list. But I mean, what are you particularly proud of or pleased about at the moment?
Well, I think for me, the I came into belong to post the marriage referendum, post gender recognition, all those wonderful wins. But I knew that, achieving legislative and constitutional equality was really important, but that it wouldn't change attitudes and behavior overnight. And for me, it really was about trying to change the school experiences for LGBTQ plus young people. I didn't come out until much later in life. I was 30, but I knew from talking with younger LGBT people that school is very often the site of the most extreme sense of feeling excluded, sometimes being bullied. And so that was really where I wanted to focus my energy on. And so over the last 10 years, we've grown the Stand Up Awareness Week
Mhm.
um, is now being run in three-quarters of post-primary schools across Ireland. But we've also done a lot of research with Columbia University based in the US, uh, looking at the climate in schools. So over three-quarters of LGBT students don't feel safe in post-primary schools in Ireland. And they describe everything from homophobic slurs, slang, right up to property damage, physical violence, and sexual violence because of their gender identity and sexual orientation. So we've been able to use that evidence base as well as so the quantitative and the qualitative data from this research and really help to shape policy and services. So talk to policymakers in the Department of Education and talk to schools and management bodies. And there's been great work, great progress made over the last few years. We have a new action plan, national action plan on bullying in schools. It's in Irish, it's Be Conálta, which means be kind. And yeah, so there's lots of great initiatives happening as a result of that. And lots of training and capacity building going on in schools for educators so they feel competent and confident to support LGBT young people, to reduce that feeling of fear of rejection, of exclusion, and in turn, um, uh, the the hope is that it will reduce the risks of mental health problems. We know from the research, Trinity College here in Dublin released some statistics last year around being LGBT in Ireland, and what they found was the mental health and well-being of younger LGBT people as well as trans people in Ireland is worse now than it was 10 years ago. And so with the younger cohort, they are 3 times more likely to experience extreme stress or depression, and 5 times more likely to attempt suicide than their non-LGBT colleagues in school, friends in school. And a lot of that is directly linked to stigma, shame, fear of rejection, and bullying and exclusion that's happening in schools, online, even in their homes, but increasingly even on our streets here in Ireland. So there's huge amount of work that needs to be done. the rise in that kind of anti-LGBT sentiment online is
Hmm.
giving voice to a minority of people. We still believe, we know from public opinion polling that the majority of people here in Ireland are very supportive of LGBT identities and LGBT people, but the small minority of people sound much bigger. And if you're a young person online a lot, you're going to hear that a lot and
Yeah,
internalize that message. And it's having a catastrophic impact on the mental health and well-being of young
yeah,
people, as well as trans people of all ages, of
yes,
course.
yes. There's quite a lot of work in a number of countries looking at mental health in schools, but it's interesting hearing looking at it through a particular lens and the particular challenges for younger people who are LGBTQ plus. And
Yeah, even as recently as last week, we have a longitudinal study running here in Ireland, growing up in Ireland, and so the ESRI published some of the statistics for 9 and 13-year-olds around bullying and bullying
mm,
behaviours, and LGBT identities is very high up there
yeah,
in relation to some of the rationale, the reasons, or the topics, I suppose, of
mm,
uh, children and young people of that age cohort, why they might be picked on, as well as it overlaps then if that young person is or is perceived as being LGBT.
mm,
Also, if they have a disability or if they're overweight, they're at much higher risks of being bullied or excluded. So yeah, it seems to be it seems counterintuitive when the majority of people here living in this island here in Ireland are increasingly more accepting of LGBT
mhm.
identities, that things would be getting worse. But it's very obvious to us working on the front line that this is to do with this small but very vocal
Yeah,
cohort of haters online whose
yeah,
actions are spilling out then
yeah,
over into real life
yes.
scenarios.
So their voices are being amplified, but also their confidence to behave in a way that's bullying and harassing.
Indeed,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that sounds like a good list. I mean, what do you sort of see the leadership challenges for you in this environment?
Well, there's many at the moment. I mean, one, I suppose, is being a person from the community myself.
Mhm.
Um, Not only am I hearing of the experience of young people, but um, I also internalize some of that hate myself. I know intellectually what's going on, but it's also can be deeply frustrating and hurtful to be targeted, and it's happened.
Mm,
I've come off most social media because I personally trolled and attacked for the work that I'm doing. So that can be difficult. I never thought, post-marriage equality, I thought I had put up with the worst of the homophobia, but um unfortunately in the last 5 years that's got worse. So that can be tricky as
mhm,
an LGBT leader. And that, the vicarious trauma of working with people who are
mhm,
experiencing this hate as well as me personally. Um, and I think then with the leadership, when you're leading a team, um, where some, not all of your team are also LGBT, if the same goes for them. So we have to be very careful about staff well-being. We have to put in place a lot of additional safeguards around, my team's well-being and, making sure people are minding themselves, are taking their, much more goes way beyond just taking your annual leave. It's the support and supervision, it's the employee assistance programs, it's the external coaching, the, external counseling when it's needed, lots of team building days. So, I mean, in terms of investment, my board of trustees have had to really include that every year. When we're doing our budgeting, they have to really make sure that we have enough money there to make sure that, uh, we're investing in staff well-being, and we're not just burning through employees and burning out activists who really give their heart and soul to this work. But which is wonderful, but it shouldn't be at a personal cost. That means that you've only got a work life in this sector for a certain length of time before you have to go and do something else.
Yeah. So what would you like to see others doing?
What for me, I suppose it's a huge amount of it is around solidarity. I've experienced a lot of that over the last few years from leaders in different sectors. So, whether they're working in the public, private, or community and voluntary sector, I've had a lot of contact from leaders in different organizations saying exactly that. How can we help? How can we show solidarity? And I mean, it happens in lots of different ways. Sometimes it's just, me being able to go for a cup of tea with them and have a vent, and um, you know, and then it's in more practical ways as well. We've had a lot of, we're very lucky that we've had a lot of financial support from the private sector and the public sector employees, as well as, through CSR, marketing budgets, employee engagement groups as well. Lots of different ways we've been supported. Volunteering. People have given us their volunteering hours, skills sharing, right down to, being able to offer us space when we're having off sites. So, and also then just as well, very, 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 courageously sometimes, but really necessary, is showing their solidarity. So showing up to LGBT events, you know, coming to prides, not just Dublin, but the regional prides. They're the much more difficult ones to come to, and show up to show the haters that, that this is not the Ireland that the majority of people voted for 10 years ago. That that we still have so many great allies, great partners, uh, great leaders and organizations, across the public and private and community and voluntary sectors, who will stand by us, despite what's being said, the lies and the mistruths, and the fake news that goes on around the work that we do to try and, um, you know, uh, promote inclusion, and to ensure that LGBT young people, that those high rates of suicide and self-harm, we start to see them go down. So, really lots of different ways that
Yeah.
people have shown great solidarity, um, calling out homophobia, calling out transphobia, in the media, in their workplaces, in their communities, and in their homes, and then showing up at events, like we
Mm.
said.
I mean, I agree with you that there's something about people taking individual responsibility and showing up and being present and calling things out. I mean, you were talking about the kind of evidence you've gathered around the experience of young people in schools, in youth centres, in homelessness organizations. Do you see those organizations responding as well as you'd like?
Yes, because they see it on their front line, as well. They're seeing it in the data that they're collecting. So, homelessness services are seeing that there's high numbers
Mm.
of, amongst the youth populations that they're working with, and that they're not coming out. They're hearing the homophobia in their centers, in their residential units. Their own workers are experiencing it, so they see the kind of the rise of this, or the normalization of homophobic and transphobic, language, and sometimes violence or behavior, and know that some of, a good number of the young people that end up needing their support are experiencing homelessness because of their gender identity or sexual orientation. So they come to us,
Mm.
it's they have their own research, their own data and statistics as well, and then we work with them, we collaborate with them to try and um, improve, so we can co-create programs that will improve their practice, their policies, make their spaces more welcoming and inclusive, and then it gets out, that it becomes visible and heard by the people that need their services, that they are doing this work. So yeah, no, I think the evidence now, especially with healthcare professionals around mental health, around harm from drugs and alcohol, things like that. It's they know that that LGBT population communities, because of the stigma, fear of rejection, and violence and exclusion, that there is that increased vulnerability, and therefore increased risks of mental health issues and all the other resulting matters that sometimes
Mm.
people get caught up in when they're not when they're struggling with their mental health.
So, what does being a good leader look like to you? It's quite unusual to talk to someone who's been in the legal profession. You've campaigned for changes in the law, and now you're following through to actually looking at also what happens on the ground. The legislative frameworks change, but is the behavior on the ground
Mm.
changing? How has your leadership style changed, and what do you think being a good leader looks like as a result of that rich experience?
Well, it's definitely changed because, I mean, when I was working as a solicitor many years ago, things were a lot more conservative. And your boss there was huge difference of power and hierarchy, and employee well-being. I don't think that phrase existed.
Hmm.
You know, you just wouldn't get away with treating employees the way we were treated as newly qualified
Mm.
or apprentice solicitors back then. So I think what it is, in my case, I think the best leaders and coaches and mentors and people that I have had the privilege of working with are people who are authentic, um, who are able to bring themselves to work. So, and so for me, being able to come out and bring myself to work has definitely made me a better leader. Um, I think being able to be professional, obviously hold those boundaries, um, but being able to be, to bring empathy, to bring vulnerability, to be able to model, I don't know the answer to that, or I messed up with this, but this is my learning, all those kind of things. Uh, Being able to show accountability um, when you mess up, being a good listener, uh, being able to put together a good team so that, you know, everyone feels like they're working together. You'll always have people who are it, you might be having a bad day or week or month. And so it's about creating teams that really support each other
Mm.
um, through hard times with each other, but at the and can encourage each other, inspire each other, and hold each other accountable as well. So it's about kind of creating that culture, you know, um, of trust, accountability, and having a bit of crack as well, having a bit of fun together, is really important, I think.
Hmm.
We're human beings, not just human doings. So we have to relate to each other, and many of us spend more time with our work colleagues than we do with our
Mm.
our partners, our significant others. So you have to be able to get on well with each other, and respect each other as well.
Yeah. I think it feels at the moment that the external environment is changing quite a lot. And I think you've described how, in one sense, we've moved forward in terms of LGBT equality, but at the same time, the young people are experiencing more bullying and harassment. Are you finding that you're having to change the way you lead in this changing environment, or has it actually, are you finding actually it's the same principles that you're following through?
Well, I think definitely since COVID, as I said before, the amount of time and investment we put into staff well-being has just,
Yeah.
it's just there's no comparison. It's like a before and after. I mean, we would have always, because of the nature of our work, been very mindful of employee staff well-being and that. But you know, post-COVID, and now in this new era of this online hate and y- yeah, I think you have to be a lot more mindful about people in their as a whole human being,
Mm.
and what's going on for people at
Yeah.
home, what's going on for people in the round, rather than just in their workplace, so
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's much tougher being a leader these days. I think, um, in many ways, but can be very rewarding as well, nonetheless. For me, part of some of the lovely things that I love about being a leader is being able to work with um, younger emerging leaders and really recognizing their skills and their gifts and encouraging them um, to be brave and to, flex into new challenges. And I'm very proud that over the last 10 years, three of my senior managers have now gone on to become CEOs in
Oh,
other
yeah.
community and voluntary
Fantastic.
organizations. And, so that is really good payoff. I think I feel really good,
Mm.
apart from the great stuff that's happening here and belong to. But for my team, I think it's really lovely to see them um get that encouragement
Mm.
and feel that I have their backs and that I
Yeah.
I I want them to, realize their potential.
Thank you. What's next for you?
Well, we've a really exciting strategic plan ahead. Lots of exciting things, but for me, the biggest excitement is really what we want to do here in Dublin. I'm a Dub born and bred, and what we really want to do is establish a very inclusive youth hub for young people here in
Oh,
Dublin. So whether you're LGBT, member of the traveling community, you're from the inner city here, or you're visiting Dublin, that you'd find a space that you can come, have a cup of tea, meet your friends, come after school or drop in, meet other young people, find out what's happening in Dublin, have a range of different services available to you for free, and then get involved in youth work, either amongst your own friends or, meeting young people from different backgrounds. I think it'll be hugely enriching for the individual young people, but also I know from youth work, the beauty of youth work is, you when you invest in young people and light a fire under them, they become agents of positive social change themselves. And I look forward to being able to nurture that and work on social cohesion and for our city, our beautiful city here in Dublin, where it used to feel safe for young people to hang out in pre-COVID, but these days maybe a little bit less so. So that's my big ambition for the next few years.
Moninne Griffith, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.